How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Yes, it's true. I got retweeted by Elon Musk. How does that look? 20 million impressions on my tweet. Why did Elon Musk tweet me over the weekend? Well, it's the top story today, and it's starting to explode. And it's the top story today, but I got to point out to you, thanks to National Review last week, if you listened to my show on Friday of last week in the third hour, you were ahead of the story. You knew about this story before it made major waves over the weekend. I got to it first on the radio. Jay Jones, the Democrats' attorney general candidate in Virginia, in all sorts of hot water over his text messages. And I got to put this in context for you. It's very, very important that you understand the context here. Jay Jones, in a private text message to a Republican member of the Virginia House of Delegates, said he was upset that the former Speaker of the House of Delegates in Virginia had the audacity to say nice things about a dead Democrat at that dead Democrat's funeral. You understand this, right? This is all the context you have to have here. This is very important. You understand. The Democrats have nominated Jay Jones to be their candidate for Attorney General in Virginia. And in 2022, in a private text exchange, Jay Jones was upset that the then Virginia Speaker of the House, Todd Gilbert, said nice things about a Democrat at that Democrat's funeral. And Jay Jones's response in a private exchange was to wish that Todd Gilbert, the then Speaker of the House, would be assassinated. In fact, he said if he was given 2 bullets and said to pick between Pol Pot, Hitler, and the Speaker of the Virginia House, he'd put 2 bullets in the Speaker of the Virginia House's head, and then had the audacity to take it a step further and say that he wanted the Speaker's children to also die, preferably in the arms of their mother. He wanted to assassinate the Speaker of the House and watch his 2 children die in their mother's arms. Because in his words, you have to know tragedy to change your political opinion. You have to suffer. And he wanted Todd Gilbert to suffer. He wanted Todd Gilbert's wife to suffer. That's the Democrats' attorney general pick. And as you know and I know, your private text exchanges, you're not playing to the crowd there. You're being candid and honest. And in his candid honesty, he wanted to assassinate a politician from another party for the audacity of saying nice things about a Democrat at a funeral and also kill the man's 2 kids. You know what the real scandal is, though? The same man, Jay Jones, was arrested in Virginia for doing 116 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone. He was sentenced to 1,000 hours community service in lieu of prison. He spent 500 of the 1,000 hours working on his own political campaign and filled out the paperwork to obfuscate what he was doing so the judge didn't realize he was doing political fundraising for himself as his community service. That's the real scandal here. The man who wants to be the Attorney General in Virginia used his community service sentence to politically fundraise for himself. That's the real scandal. But what's really going to get the traction in the aftermath of 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump and the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the other violence of progressives out there these days is that this man in a private exchange wanted to murder a politician and his 2 children. and said that casually and defended himself, insisting it was the case, that it was not somehow out of line for him to want to do these sorts of things, that it was normal, par for the course, just him in a private conversation wanting to murder the Speaker of the Virginia House and his 2 children, and not a single Democrat will tell him to get out of the race. Not a single Democrat. In fact, the Speaker of the House in Virginia, the current Speaker, the new Speaker, the Democratic Speaker, Speaker Scott, actually went to a church and stood in a church pulpit and told the congregants in the church pulpit to ignore it all.
So we need to understand something. We have to be mature in our thinking and how we vote. We can't get distracted because they want us to get distracted by the text message here or something else. Stay focused.
You got that? Stay focused. Now, here's the galling part. The Speaker of the House, Don Scott, in Virginia, he started his speech this way.
Thank you, Tavares. Thank you, church, this morning. I want to thank you all for having me up here today. I come, first of all, with two things on my mind. The first thing is a good friend of mine, a delegate from Prince William County. Her name is Candy Munden King. Last night, I got a call about 3 a.m. And it's a great time to have to come to church. I was planning on being here earlier, Pastor, so I apologize for my tardiness. But I was in Portsmouth minding my business and planning to come straight here. But at 3 a.m., I got a call that her 15-year-old daughter had died. She had suffered from sickle cell anemia her entire life. She died a painful death with her parents watching. Her dad actually was the one that tried to resuscitate her, and she died in his arms.
That's the Speaker of the House in Virginia, Don Scott, who begins this speech in a pulpit behind a cross in front of a stained glass window of Christ, telling this congregation about Candy Munden King, a Virginia House of Delegates representative who lost her daughter Saturday night. The daughter died in her arms. And he ended his speech telling those same Christians in that same church to ignore the text messages of the Virginia Democrat Jay Jones, who wanted another mother to watch her children die in her arms to teach her a political lesson. That's where we are with the Democrats in Virginia and nationally who won't do anything. Now, I got to give it to Joe Scarborough, actually. On Morning Joe. Joe started this conversation off on MSNBC, and you're probably not going to hear about it anywhere on MSNBC other than his show, where he has editorial control.
Coming up, an attorney general candidate in Virginia is apologizing for his texts about a state lawmaker. We'll go through what the messages said.
He should probably be forced to withdraw from the race, and probably is doing a lot there.
All right, Morning Joe, we'll be right back.
That was this morning, and then here's the conversation that actually Joe stepped aside and just let the progressives talk. Listen to this.
They were text messages, horrible. I didn't want to read them out loud. I'm wondering how the text messages
deeply disturbing messages that have been swiftly condemned across the political aisle. The Republicans have tried to tie this to the Congresswoman Spanberger, the gubernatorial candidate. She did very quickly denounce them. But it's unclear whether this attorney general candidate will stay in the race. I think there's a growing sense that he probably should not. We heard President Trump last night. But even some Democratic leaders, John Hyman, have started to say, like, look, this is inappropriate. You can't, and especially at a time right now with such concern about violent rhetoric and political violence.
Who says that?
Yeah, that this is just way beyond the line.
I would say, not to be too much on the high horse, it's wildly inappropriate under any circumstances. Today, tomorrow, 10 years ago, 6 months ago. I think the pressure is going to be on Spanberger and for the whole of the party to ask this candidate to just quit the race, because just both, it's the right thing. And also, the political splashback, you don't want to mess with this right now.
Who says that?
I think the right thing to do is basically this guy should do everyone a favor and step out of the race.
Yeah.
Now, notice, though, that they won't actually say what he said. Mika does, and they were too horrible to say. Let me tell you what he said. Actually, you know what? Let me play the Winsome Sears ad now, targeting Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic candidate for governor in Virginia, who is a very milquetoast candidate, who is a very focus group candidate, who refuses to answer questions from the press, hides to avoid answering for the press. When she does, it always ends. Abigail Spanberger's been on the campaign trail campaigning with Jay Jones, the Democrat. Listen to this, and you'll get a sense of the man's text messages as Winsome Sears, the Republican candidate for governor, incorporates some interviews the guy has now had to do as damage control.
We start with breaking news from the campaign trail.
Jay Jones is under fire tonight.
Jay Jones is under fire.
Jay Jones is under fire after messages he sent in 2022 saying former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert should be shot.
I'm excited about this ticket.
It's been great to be out on the campaign trail with Jay Jones.
You said Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views.
We deserve an attorney general who will stand up for the people of Virginia.
Jones said, quote, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head.
Let the rage fuel you.
Jones doubled down, saying, quote, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes.
How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific, so callously?
Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
You got that? That's what Jay Jones said. Only when people suffer personally do they change their mind on policy. He said that Todd Gilbert and his wife were evil and breeding little fascists. And he wanted Todd Gilbert to get 2 bullets in the back of his head while his wife watched the kids die. That's who the Democrats have put up in Virginia. And you know, all of the loud voices who scream, but Trump, oh, you Republicans, but Trump, they can't even denounce this. The Democratic politicians, you know, on MSNBC, they're saying Democratic politicians are starting to come out and say you should drop out. Not a single Democratic politician has done that. That's spin. That's not truth. No Democrat has come out, including Abigail Spanberger, to say Jay Jones should just get out of the race. They won't do that. Why? They don't want to lose the race. They're putting their political opportunism ahead of what's right, and they say that's what Donald Trump does, and it's wrong. So it's wrong when Donald Trump and Republicans do it. And by the way, I agree. But they're doing it now, too. They're allowing Donald Trump yet again to set their behavioral parameters. They say this stuff is bad. It shouldn't happen. But Donald Trump does it, so it's okay for them to do it, too. You know who's a beacon of moral clarity here is David French. No. David actually went online and risked the ire of the left who have now embraced him and said Jay Jones should drop out of the race. And if you're on the left and say, but the Republicans are worse, then you're part of the problem. We can normalize cause for physical violence or we can step back from the brink. That's the choice. He's right. And the Democrats are doubling down on he should stay in the race. Democratic operatives in Virginia are, first of all, they're trying to say this is AI. But Jay Jones has now admitted it and apologized for it. You know, and then the national spin. It would not have come up on Meet the Press except for my buddy Mark Short.
But can I also say in your interview with Leader Jeffries that can we stop with the pro-clutching about the mean tweets and sombrero tweets? That this week it came to light that a Democrat candidate for Attorney General State of Virginia called for the assassination of a political opponent, called for the assassination of that political opponent's family, and there's not one national Democrat calling for him to step aside. Not one. It's disgraceful.
Nero, let me let you respond to that because that is going to be a big story, I think, in the coming days.
I mean, I absolutely think people should criticize that 100%. Yeah. I think it was a private conversation he had, but still awful and disgusting. It wasn't calling for it public, but terrible. And it should be condemned. But then we should condemn that. But then you should condemn when the president calls the Democratic Party the party of Satan.
Yeah, in all fairness.
Why don't we just say both of those things?
I think I've paid the price for saying for political violence on our side.
But yeah, I agree with that. But let's criticize other Republicans or the president for not saying Satan.
Notice how she's trying to shift it, and she says, but it was a private conversation. That's important. Yes, because Democrats are having lots of private conversations wishing death on Republicans, which is why she's willing to say, oh, but it was a private conversation. Don't look at hers, I suspect. But that's what makes it more damning. is Jay Jones wasn't out on the campaign trail blustering like Donald Trump does. He was having a private conversation with someone saying that another politician needed 2 bullets in the back of his head and his kids needed to die too. That's where the Democratic Party is right now. After 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump that they cheered on, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and this party seems a little bit too comfortable with the idea of assassination. Boll and Branch kindly sent me a new set of king-size sheets, and I'm happy to get them, but I'll tell you the truth, I've already got Boll and Branch sheets that I've had for about a decade. They are so soft now. They haven't frayed. They haven't worn out. They've just gotten really soft. They're made of the highest quality, 100% organic cotton. They're very durable. And right now, they've got limited edition fall colors for a deeply comforting bedroom. And they come with the 30-night worry-free guarantee. And I'm telling you, the more you wash them, the softer they get, and they don't wear out. I've had my set of Boll and Branch sheets for almost a decade. You can start building your sanctuary of comfort this fall with Boll and Branch. For a limited time, get 20% off your first set of sheets plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/Eric. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/Eric, ERICK. Save 20%, unlock free shippings, exclusions apply, and you get those great fall colors right now. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would love to have you. Don't forget, text Eric, ERICK, to 33777. You can get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, and so much more. I would absolutely love to have you get the show notes and follow me around social media where I did lots of cooking this weekend, including made a Basque cheesecake. It's from the Basque region of Spain. They're fantastic. They're actually not that hard to make. And then my wife's stupid dog decided that he wanted the cheesecake for himself. Even made a homemade caramel sauce for it. Did not end up well last night. I tried to get Christy Nome to come visit. She was unavailable last night to take care of our dog. Was not happy with the dog last night. Nonetheless, did watch a good football game. Y'all, Bari Weiss is taking over CBS News, and she has released a memo. The reporters at CBS News are deeply, deeply unhappy with Bari Weiss inserting herself into the editorial process of CBS News, which, by the way, someone needs to. And she's a liberal. She's not progressive. She's not woke. And the newsroom is beside itself as a result. I want to get into that and the continued play-by-play of the shutdown when we come back. But first, I got to tell you about Vision Computers. They would love to have you be a customer of Vision Computers. You go to 404 Compute. Well, you call them at 404 Compute, or you go to visioncomputers.com. Let them build a computer for you. They can save you money and build you a machine that's going to last you longer than the one you get at the one-size-fits-all big box store. Not only that, but then you get the world-class customer service, where you get a special phone number. You get to call them 15 seconds or less. They answer the phone. 15 seconds or less. They're going to answer the phone. And they're going to help you with your computer. If you don't know how to do something, if you've lost a file, if something doesn't seem to be working right, they can take care of you in 15 seconds or less, faster than a Google search. In fact, if you're a business, they can save you money. Vision Computers can be your managed IT service. So you don't have the person on the payroll in the office doing IT. You get Vision Computer and your employees get that phone number, they call them, 15 seconds or less, they get the answer. No email, no AI, real human beings. Go to 404 Compute or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision Computer take care of you. Tell them Eric sent you. You might save a little more money. In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they've upgraded to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How's it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and for all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Delighted to have you with me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have something for you. Yes, I have an exclusive. I am not on in Richmond, Virginia. I'm trying to get on the radio in Richmond, Virginia, but I'm not there. I've got a couple of small stations in Virginia that I dearly love. I think their weekend listens. They're not yet running me live. They're waiting for clearance to get me live. But, my sister and brother-in-law lived in Norfolk for a very long time. The Chesapeake Bay area, my brother-in-law in the Navy spent a lot of time up there. And I know I've got a number of listeners. I can see my live stream listener in Richmond, one of whom is the Attorney General in Virginia, who is a friend of mine, Jason Marries. He's a great Attorney General. Even the Democrats in Virginia like him, even though they're running Jay Jones against him. And I happen to have now for you the very first airing of Jason Marries' new ad about the Jay Jones text messages. You hear it first, even though I'm not on in Virginia. You're going to hear it first right here.
The Washington Post confirms Jay Jones sent texts that imagined shooting the Republican Speaker of the House. Jay Jones wished the Speaker's wife could watch her own child die in her arms. It's so disgusting. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Jay Jones confirmed that he hoped an opponent's children could die to advance his political agenda. Can you trust Jay Jones to protect your children?
I'm Jason Yarez, candidate for Attorney General. I sponsor this ad.
There you have it. That's the Attorney General in Virginia who is in the fight of his life for a re-election in Virginia in a year when the Republicans control the White House, which means the Democrats tend to be on offense in a place like Virginia. I talked to Jason's campaign. They said that they were a little concerned about turnout after Charlie Kirk. Virginia early voting has already started, by the way. Yes, I know. It is October 6th. The election is not until November. Early voting in Virginia started in September. And it seemed like the Republicans were not as engaged as maybe they could be. And then after the Charlie Kirk assassination, we have seen this massive engagement of Republican voters. And here now, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we have the Democratic candidate for Attorney General in Virginia saying he wanted to put 2 bullets in the back of Todd Gilbert's head. Now, I want to go back through this ad so that you have the visuals of this ad. I don't need to play it. I'm just going to read you the text messages. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets in the head. That was the first of his text messages. But wait, there's more. He also said, only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. And that was after he decided that he wanted to have Todd Gilbert's wife watch their child die in her arms. Now, somebody, those "in this house we believe" signs? Somebody just put one up online and says that this is what we're probably going to start seeing in the yards of Democrats. "In this house we believe." Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. He receives both bullets every time. Yes, I hope his kids die. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. Republicans are evil, their children are little fascists. If that seems a little extreme, those were what Jay Jones was saying in his text messages. Todd Gilbert receives both bullets every time. I hope his kids die. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. He and his wife are evil and their children are little fascists. That's actually what Jay Jones said in a private chat. His candid thoughts in a private chat. And it was only in 2022 that he did this. What still amazes me, and the thing that just makes my brain kind of explode on this, is that the reason Jay Jones had this candid exchange and frank sharing of his views about his hatred for the Republican Lieutenant Governor Todd Gilbert is because Todd Gilbert said something nice about a Democrat at the Democrat's funeral. That's the thing that just I mean, of all the things to provoke a response of, I want to put 2 bullets in the back of his head and murder his children, he said something nice at a man's funeral about the man who was a Democrat. And in response to the Republican speaker saying something nice about a dead Democrat at the dead Democrat's funeral, Jay Jones says, I want to put 2 bullets in the back of Todd Gilbert's head and watch his children die in his wife's arm. They're evil and their children are little fascists. This man wants to be Attorney General in Virginia. And, you know, the real irony here is that Jay Jones is a Nepo baby. He's a member of the Lucky Sperm Club. His parents were prominent politicians in the Tidewater area of Virginia. They were prominent in the community, and he used that prominence to rise in politics on his parents' name. And he's running against Jason Miyares, who's grew up in a working class home with a single mom. No dad in the house. What a stark contrast between the two men. Now, we got to move on because it is notable now that this story has shocked the conscience. I got to give credit to National Review. National Review, if you read the show notes today, National Review broke the news on Friday, and I was the first radio show nationwide to bring it up. And it has now expanded. It's very notable how very few national Democratic politicians have said anything. Not a single one of them will call for him to resign. You compare it with Ralph Northam. Back in the day, Ralph Northam, remember, appeared in blackface. It was easy for the Democrats to call for him to resign because his replacement would have been a Democratic lieutenant governor. Here, the Democrats would lose the election for Attorney General in Virginia. And because the election's on the line, not a single Democrat so far is calling on Jay Jones to step aside. In fact, the Democratic Attorney General's nationwide campaign, the Democratic, Democratic Attorneys General Association, they're continuing to commit money to Jay Jones. There you have it, my friends. There you have it. It is interesting to me how all of the high-minded rhetoric of the Democrats goes out the window when elections are on the line. Now, we have to move on to the shutdown because it continues to go on. Here's what I'm told by Republican sources in Washington, D.C. The Republicans will cave on the Democrats' health care demands. However, the Democrats have to cave on the government shutdown first. So the Republicans in Washington, D.C., I'm told very reliably, are willing to cut some deal with the Democrats on their health care demands. But the Democrats, they've got to open the government first. This is the way it's worked with Democrats when Republicans shut it down. Republicans agree to open the government. Democrats agree to cut a deal on something or other, typically. So that's what the Republicans want this time. You open the government. We'll compromise on health care. We've got till the end of the year to negotiate something before people get the bill. Thus far, the Democrats are insisting on keeping it shut down. And I got to say, what I find notable is that even some of the members of the press are starting to hold Democrats accountable for their own prior words. Here's Adam Schiff on MSNBC.
But you actually did make a similar point back in 2013. That's when Tea Party Republicans pushed to shut down the government against Obamacare. Let me play that for you. Get your reaction on the other side.
It's more than fair to ask the president to negotiate improvements to the Affordable Care Act, but not with the threat of shutting down the government or defaulting on our debt. It's just no way to do business and can't be allowed to proceed that way, not only for this president, but for future presidents.
That was Adam Schiff, and that was, Meet the Press, Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. And this is her with Hakeem Jeffries.
But let me ask you, because you say this is a Republican shutdown, but it's Democratic senators who are withholding their votes on what is called a clean resolution. That means no strings attached, which is something, quite frankly, Leader, that you and other Democrats have advocated for in the past. Take a look.
You do not use the threat of shutting down government to try to advance your policy agenda.
First thing that the House has to do is pass a clean 6-week CR.
A continuing resolution that is at the fiscal year 2023 levels is the only way forward.
That was Hakeem Jeffries at the end. Yes, my friends. It's amazing now to see some of the members of the press holding these people accountable for their words, which is actually a good thing. Kevin Hassett was on CNBC, asked about the health care subsidies the Democrats want.
Well, the bottom line is that we made some progress with the previous bill, and a lot of people share your opinion about Obamacare. Most of the people who are getting insurance in Obamacare are just being put on Medicaid at sometimes 4 times the poverty limit. And so the thing to remember is that these high subsidies that are expiring because the Democrats passed a bill saying they should expire then because the emergency over COVID is over. So Democrats themselves said that we should take them away, and now they're just trying to use them as a political cudgel to try to score some points.
He's right, by the way, but this is Hakeem Jeffries on the Today Show this morning.
But they're billionaire donors.
But again, the majority of folks certainly don't want their health care premiums to go up. And I think a lot of folks are watching this and they're wondering, why fight this battle now? Why not reopen the government and still have these conversations and negotiate over the next few months?
Yeah, it's a really good question. But the time is now to address this health care crisis.
But why now?
Well, absolutely. The enrollment period opens on November 1st. Notices have already started to go out, indicating that premiums, copays, and deductibles for tens of millions of Americans all across the country are going to dramatically increase. For example, a couple that makes $88,000 a year currently, which receives the Affordable Care Act tax credits, pays insurance of about $8,000 per year. That will triple to $24,000 a year right now. That's what people are facing right now, which is why we need to address it.
So we got to address it now. But by your own words, in the past, you got to reopen the government before you negotiate. Only now do they not want to. Here's, again, I am told pretty reliably the Republicans will cut a deal with the Democrats on this, but the Democrats have to do a clean resolution right now. There is some wavering behind the Democrats. Donald Trump continued to hold Russ Vogt out there as a boogeyman for the Democrats. Vogt meets with the Republicans on Wednesday, and from what I am told, they've given the Democrats this runway to back down on this. And if they haven't backed down by the time Vogt meets with Republicans on Wednesday on Capitol Hill, then the cuts are coming. The firings are coming. The shutdowns of portions of the government are coming. Because you've got to remember, right now the government is unfunded. There's outside of mandatory spending, there is no current money for any operation in government outside of the mandatory spending and the stuff that pays for itself. Which means the president, being a good steward of the budget, has an obligation and the power to start firing people, saying, I'm sorry, we have no money in the budget for you. You must be fired. All the DEI staffs of every department can suddenly be fired, not just laid off, but fired. Those departments shut down. He hasn't done it yet. I've wished he would do it out of the gate, but he hasn't. I think it's probably time for the president to start letting heads roll within the executive branch and show the Democrats what a president unrestrained by a government shutdown can do. He's been Mr. Nice Guy so far, trying to get the Democrats to negotiate. And again, I'm told pretty reliably that he is willing to cut a deal on health care, but they got to open the government first. We'll see if the Rust vote threat made reality after Wednesday changes their minds. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I will get to phone calls in the next hour. There's a lot more happening out there, including a man showed up for the Supreme Court's inaugural mass that they do every October 5th, and he had weapons, a Molotov cocktail at least. Who has been detained. Did you hear about this? Now, there's some discrepancy. He could have been mentally unbalanced, could have been a homeless man, all sorts of stuff. But they arrested the guy for what looked like he wanted to attack the Supreme Court justices on their way out of a mass. The Supreme Court term began today. They're meeting in Washington, D.C., and they've decided not to take Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. They have rejected her case at the United States Supreme Court. When we come back, though, the would-be Brett Kavanaugh assassin has been sentenced to 8 years in prison, could have gotten 30 or 40 years, but he has transitioned. And so all of the news papers and news outlets that referred to him as a him months ago are now referring to him as a her. And the judge actually said in sentencing one of the reasons she was giving him a light sentence was because he's transitioned, and now his parents have come to terms with his transitioning. I wish I was making that up, but I'm not making that up. This is how far the progressive left has fallen, a Biden-appointed judge doing this. There are way more details, including the press reaction on this. And I got to get into the Bari Weiss stuff because it's relevant. At CBS News, internal leaking already trying to sabotage her as she takes up her editor-in-chief position as Paramount has bought CBS. And now it turns out Paramount is after CNN. They want to combine CNN and CBS into a larger news operation. And the progressive wokes at CNN are spitting mad at the idea, but it looks like Warner Brothers is ready to spin them off. And they got the deep pockets and the money to make it happen. And it looks like it's going to happen. I've got those details in the Supreme Court. The would-be assassin of Brett Kavanaugh, who has allegedly transitioned, at least he gets a female prison sentence now. Playing the game. Oh, by the way, you know Abigail Spanberg? She won't take a position on a man on Northern Virginia who shows up in women's locker rooms and watches them because he says he's transitioning even though he never has. We'll get into more of this. But first, I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank, my bank. They could be your bank. I had the opportunity to use their app this weekend to deposit some cash, and it worked flawlessly. Generates a QR code, took it to a local store near my house. They scanned it, gave them the money, and it was transferred into my bank account like magic. They put it in their cash register, but it showed up in my bank account, oldglorybank.com/Eric. You can go get a bank account with them as well. Checking or savings. You can do car loans. You can do home loans. You can do CDs. They make it really easy for you. And here's the thing. If you are a active duty military, they waive a lot of fees for premium checking. You can find out more at oldglorybank.com/Eric. If you're a veteran and first responder, they've got great deals for you. oldglorybank.com/ERICK. They really are my bank. They can be your bank. A great bank for custodial account for your kids. So much. oldglorybank.com/Eric. Check them out. A bank by conservatives for conservatives. Businesses, they've got great accounts for you as well, and they will not debank you. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. oldglorybank.com/Eric.